excited for that. But now we're very excited to have our next guest. We have Ollie Millroy. He's a driver for Optimum Motorsports, driving the McLaren 720 GT3, and very excited to have you, Ollie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, how was it out there today? It looked like a crowded track, but everybody kind of minded their manners.
It was, yeah. It was really good fun. It was actually my first IMSA race and my first Daytona 24 hours as well. So it was a big learning curve for me personally. You know, with the DPIs, the LMP2s. I raced at Le Mans last year, so I've got experience with the hypercars and LMP2s there. But you know, it's different when you put over 60 cars on a much sort of shorter track. It's narrow. The circuit's really technical. It's bumpy. So really good fun. Really, it was a really enjoyable race. Huge experience and important for myself and the whole team. Obviously, going into next week.
Ollie, tell us a little bit. There's so many different marks out there, and I think what's unique about the Daytona race is not only where it is on the calendar, i.e. the first international race, but also the gathering of so many different drivers and so many different marks. I'm currently doing the Toyota GTs down in New Zealand, and obviously the McLaren is close to their heart because that's where he was from. But tell us about the 720. What are the characteristics compared to your competition that you like, or that you're learning about the package?
The McLaren's a great car. It's any pro or any amateur driver that gets in the car really gets on well with it. It's a great car to settle into. It's predictable. We're even saying today, obviously, one of the unique things about this championship compared to other series that we do is that you don't have tyre warmers. So you leave the pit lane on cold tyres, which is really hard work. But the McLaren's really actually quite strong out of the pits because it's so predictable. As a driver, you're quite happy with the thing being sideways for a few corners, and sort of you can really feel at home in the car. One of the great things is top speed's a strong characteristic of the car, which is really useful for racing. Obviously, it helps us defend, it helps us attack. If you've got a car that's good at the end of the straight, it really helps. We're good on the brakes as well, which around here we've got a few heavy braking zones. Obviously, there's only 5 braking zones on the Daytona circuit, but all 5 of them are pretty heavy braking zones, and the car's strong on the brakes, and the brakes stay really consistent over the whole race. I'm sure a lot of manufacturers will say the same thing now. You know, these cars are so well built and so well designed that a 24-hour race now is just 24 hours of sprint racing. We're not thinking about saving brakes. We're not braking 20% earlier to make the brakes last longer and worrying about brake cooling and stuff. Everyone is just pushing. You're braking as late as you do in quali for 24 hours. So yeah, so it's great. It's good. I mean, we'll see. When all of the manufacturers, all the teams really show their hand, I think we'll be in the second half of the race next week. So, but so far the car feels great. We're really happy. So, we're looking forward to it.
Ollie, I got a two-part question for you. Number one, I mean, you said this is your first time. I'm assuming this is pretty close to a bucket list race, this big 24-hour race here in the United States. But also let everybody know your background, because obviously you're a very experienced race driver.
Yeah, so I started in karts when I was about 5 years old. Worked my way through karting, had a scholarship with BMW when they had the Formula One team to then move into car racing on the BMW Junior program. Did some Formula racing, and then made the move over into GT cars, into sports cars, to try and make a career in sports car racing. And here I am now. That was sort of 10 years ago I made that switch. And I've been racing with Inception Racing now for 2 years. This is my 3rd season with them. The driver that I drive with, Brendan Arib, he's the bronze driver in our car. Brent is actually only this is the start of Brendan's 3rd season of GT3 racing. He's doing incredibly well. He's had some great results, say very inexperienced. And it's one of the awesome things about GT racing is how you get this pro-am dynamic where these guys that have been successful in their businesses and other lives have now decide they want to be racing drivers. And I mean, how incredible is it? You can come here as an amateur and race at a massive professional event like the Rolex Daytona 24 Hours. So it's, as my job as a pro now is a lot different to when, back in single seater racing, it's all about yourself. You're totally selfish. All you care about is your own lap time, your own performance. Whereas a huge part of my job now is coaching and mentoring Brendan as well, because the faster Brendan is in the car, the more happy he is in the car, that's going to have a huge impact on my own result, the team's result and performance. So yeah, it's a lot of people, when you watch us on TV, you kind of think all we do is get in the car, drive the car for that hour stint or 2 hour stint. But especially in Pro-Am, there's a whole other huge element to it.
Yeah, Jonathan.
I find that amazing, Ollie, is just that factor. And I do think, I know, those of us involved in motor racing and watch these 24-hour races know the dynamic you're talking about. But it does amaze me. There isn't another sport in the world. It's not like any amateur or gentleman driver, as you mentioned, could suddenly say to Roger Federer, "Hey, can I play the first round against you and see how I get on?" I mean, I'm not being flippant, but that's the level we've got to. Is that hard for you as a professional to deal with, or are these guys, because of the coaching or because of the work they do with you, are they up to scratch?
Oh, absolutely. And these guys are really important to all of these grids at these big international races now. The Pro-Am classes are, I mean, in IMSA now, it's not even called Pro-Am, because you can't call these guys amateurs. They're at that level now. The amateur driver level is that high. It's just the GCD classes. Mm-hmm. These guys are proper racing drivers. I mean, there's times now when I look at the timing screen and watch Brendan out there, and I think, okay, I've actually got to get in this car and actually push now to go quicker than him, because it'd be really embarrassing if I don't. There are times when he puts me under pressure, and if ever we look at data and he's a tenth or two quicker than me somewhere, I hear about it for weeks. So these guys are seriously good. And speaking of data, I think that's the reason why these guys are so good now. It's because we've got access to all this onboard video, data. When we're testing, we actually have live video, so I can be in the garage with a headset on, watching Brendan's live video, talking him through the lap. Use a bit more curve there, I want you to brake slightly later here. And so it's just instant, and that's why with the mileage and the time and the effort, you can get these guys up to speed really quickly.
Well, Ollie, one of the things that I love the 24 for the length of it, for one, but the history, we just had Mario Andretti bring us back in. He won it way back when as well. But these endurance races, I mean, you stated that they're almost a sprint nowadays. Well, if that's a sprint, what is a 6-hour race and these 12-hour races? And what is different in your prep for that? Because 6 hours, I'd be dead.
Yeah, the physical element is huge. Brendan, my teammate, he tries as much as he can to leave either the rain or the dark or both to the pros. It's like, so whenever we do a 24-hour race, I tend to do a lot of driving at night. It's the cars themselves are physical. It's very hot in the car. That's the biggest thing, is the heat. You lose a lot of fluid. So we have a physio and nutritionist here who ensures that we're eating the right things all the time leading up to the race, drinking the right amount of fluids. And you just need to be fit enough. There's no other sort of easy answer, really. Just get in the gym, go out on the bike, go out running, because the fitter you are, the easier it is to drive these cars. The easier it is to drive, the better you're going to be performing when you're in the car at 4 o'clock in the morning. So it is a sport. Friends of mine that have been friends of mine since we were very young kids at school still joke now, "Oh, why do you need to be fit to drive a car? I drive a car." But you do, it's a proper physical sport. And like I say, if you look at a lot of these amateur drivers, these gentleman drivers walking down the pit lane, they look like athletes. These guys are in the gym as well, because they know that they can squeeze that extra few tenths out of that lap time just from being fit enough.
Well, everybody's going to be watching next week, and everybody enjoys the 24. But I'm probably like a lot of people, where we're not as glued to it, or at least understanding of it, as we are of, let's say, a Formula One or a NASCAR, because there's so many races that we get to learn more quickly. Tell us a little bit about, you mentioned the stints, and obviously the physicality, but how do you go about your strategy? Is it the fastest guy that you've got that qualified the car to go first, or do you think, okay, this guy's a good night driver, or do you react on the fly? Okay, we've lost a wheel, so we need to catch up. Well, how does it work in a normal approach to the 24?
Kind of a bit of all of those, really. I always love a pre-race briefing before the 24, because the engineers have written out a plan and they'll start going through it. So, Ollie, you're going to start and do the first hour, and then you're going to hand over to Jordan, who's going to do a double, and then they kind of get through a few hours and realize they're actually wasting their time telling you this because it's going to change. You definitely have preferences. So, like at Le Mans last year, one of the guys was in the car. It was drizzling with rain on slicks in the dark, which I really personally really enjoy those conditions. Being brought up as a kid karting in the UK, I had to learn to like the wet. So we got him in early, put me in the car for that stint, and then there's guys that when it comes down to crunch time at the end of the race are just super fast, all out, everything on the table, and they're the guy you put into that stage of the race. So it's it does change. You kind of try and have a rough plan, but that can change all the time throughout a 24-hour race. So rest is important as well. The engineers will base a lot of their plan around driver rest, because you can be greedy now with a driver early in the night and put them in 4 or 5 hours, and but then they are going to underperform when you want them in the morning at 9 o'clock the next morning. And with these 24-hour races, it's very easy to get through the night and think, oh, well, we're nearly finished. But actually, you've often got another 6 or 8 or even 10 hours of racing to go once the sun comes up. So, so some of that strategy is also based around driver rest as well.
Fantastic. Well, I tell you what, we know you've been to COTA. I remember you liked it. Do you have it on your schedule for this year?
Potentially in a GT World Challenge America race. So it's a shame, because we're actually there's a plan that we're potentially going to be doing the World Endurance Championship, but that will come together. So it's a bit of a shame, because I know those guys have visited you in the past, but we'd love to come back and do the GT World Challenge America race at COTA. It was one of my favourite races last year. Actually, we won Pro-Am and GT World Challenge America there last year. It was very heavy rain, and I'm in the car. I was in the car, and as I say, I really enjoy the rain. So, it's a great circuit, and I've been there many times with McLaren as well for our events there. So, doing over 300 kilometers an hour in a P1 GTR down the back straight there was definitely a highlight. So, really good.
It's even smoother now. It is new.
Yeah, great, awesome. Yeah,
Ollie,
looking forward to coming back.
I saw you guys at COTA the last time, Optimum Inception, and that looks like a real first-class operation.
Yeah, they're a great team. They're a really great team. Sean Goff, who's the team principal, it started off as a small little team based in Yorkshire, and here they are. I think last year we had 24 or 26 race weekends all around the world. When we made the decision to do some racing over in the US, it was a huge ask to get a British team to run a car out here with a British crew. We've got a couple of the guys are based in the US. We've got cars based in the US as well, but primarily a British crew. So it's a lot of hard work and a lot of logistics involved. But yeah, and the guys are great. The guys are great. They work really hard. As anyone involved in motor racing knows, it's a huge team effort. We actually have the easy job. We're always there a couple of hours after the guys get in the morning. We always leave before them in the evening. I'm like, guys, do you even go to bed? So yeah, really good bunch of guys, and hopefully, that makes it so rewarding. Whenever we get a result, it's such a great feeling. You hear the emotion over the radio from every one of the team members. And you realize what it means to these guys. You know, yes, everyone gets paid, you know, that's how we make a living, but anyone that's been involved in any kind of sport will know that that the results mean so much to everyone. So yeah, we'll obviously do everything we can to get them a result next weekend.
Well, Ollie Millroy, thank you for coming on, and best of luck this next weekend at the Rolex 24. And we'll save a spot for you when you guys win, and we'll get you back on.
Awesome, that sounds good. I love your confidence. Thank you.
That's the British team, my God.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Ollie. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Thank you.